recording is started,
Alright.
and we'll just take a minute and look at some of what we're working with.
Okay.
Barrier in place. Barrier is about to break. Quickly take them out. Even up. Get in there. Barrier is destroyed.
Alright, already see something we're gonna go over after the game's done in training range. Okay. When you know that you're trying to go above shields of your dynamite, make sure you're angling upwards with it, right? So that way Sigma can't just block it.
Yeah.
Barrier in back.
And did we talk about cover usage last time?
I don't know.
Don't know. So essentially just being a basic refresher for the moment is good positioning is the usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover. Right there we're
Okay.
standing out in the open a lot of the times, and that means that it's very easy for people to shoot at us and kill us. So we just
Yeah.
want to make sure we're standing next to cover. I'll go a little bit more into depth on that if afterwards, if that becomes a problem.
Cannot be stopped.
Where does it hurt? Fire in the hole! Get back! Damn!
Activating the barrier.
My ultimate is almost ready. Here it comes!
Get in here.
Alright, make sure we're looking to maybe shoot it a little bit. Don't try to just run away from it, because if everyone just runs away, then it's definitely going to be hitting someone, right? The only way to stop it is to block it or to look to kill it, right? So look to destroy it.
Get behind.
I'm being attacked! I'll show them who's ready. Activating self-destruct sequence. Much better. Heroes never die.
Alright, so yeah, we're definitely going to go over a bunch of stuff after the game's done in training range. Make sure you're looking to use Bob a little bit faster. We're not holding on to Bob for so long. When you hold on to ultimates, they don't get value. On top of that, look to use your ults earlier in fights. That can stop you from being forced to hold on to it if they end up like winning before you get a chance to use it.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that we're using it more often. We're not holding on to it.
Verge on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can also mean that we get more ultimates just in general as well. So since you were in the fight, just to summarize what I was saying in case you missed parts of it, ults in general use ult more often as soon as we get them, as long as the fight wasn't won or lost, and then also look to use them early on in fights, because ults that are used earlier, before other ults, get more value.
Okay.
Right. We'll just so that I'm not, because I do have a bunch of stuff to go over with Mars, so that I don't end up getting confused between everything. I'll probably just stick with Mars for this round, and then we'll just go over Koga next game.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm out of breath. Control you.
La 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 la. Do 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 do.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Yeah, this is when they drop the beat.
I didn't realize Echo had one of those.
Echo type.
Yeah, same.
Get behind. Recheck burst activated.
Enemy seen.
Okay, with your dynamite, that's an ability that you're looking to use pretty much off of cooldown, so every single time that you get it, because it's going to be a really, really good source of ult charge, as well as like big team group damage. So you're just looking to come into fights opening up with it. Look to use it every time it comes off a cooldown. And we've done it a few times where we've detonated a little bit too early, so just make sure we're letting it travel to people, because sometimes they're a little bit far away, and we need to give it some travel time.
Yeah.
My barrier is destroyed.
Smoke him out of there. I'm taking care.
Theory disproven.
Executing flight maneuvers.
Barrier is unstable.
Here it comes.
Regen burst activated. Barrier no longer exists. My barrier is destroyed.
Enemy turret detected.
Both hold together.
Gute Arbeit.
Okay.
My barrier is destroyed.
Duplicating Zarya.
Heroes never die.
Barrier is unstable. Take you alive.
Enemy turrets down. Smoke him out of there. Fire at will. This is not the time.
Alright, make sure you're paying attention kill feed, as that was a lost fight. Did we talk about watching kill feed last time?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so just make sure we're keeping that up and paying attention to it, because, you know, as you see, we used Bob, but we still lost the fight anyway. So basically, Bob
Yeah.
was useless there, didn't get any value. So to reiterate, we use use ultimates anytime a fight has not been won or lost, and preferably at the beginning of the fight, right? Because if we're holding on to Bob till the middle of it, then that ends up happening right there, where we lost the fight before we got a chance to use Bob.
Yeah.
Don't focus on dynamites if they're kind of useless. So like if the dynamite boops into where it's not in range of anybody and it's not gonna hit anyone, detonating it's just a waste of time.
Let's get you back in the fight.
Let them out. Barrier is unstable. My barrier is destroyed. Get in here. Activating the barrier.
Heroes never die. Here it comes.
Behind you. Regen up. Wreck barrier. Out of existence.
Smoke him out of there.
Get in here. Barrier is unstable. Get inside.
This will restore you.
What is that melody?
Here it comes.
My power is overwhelming.
My barrier.
I could use some food.
Like Newton and
All right. So now I think the game's about to end here. Yeah. All right. So if you want to just stay out of queue for a minute while I go over a bunch of stuff here, I'm streaming over on Discord if you want to take a look. All right.
Alright.
Going to training range here. So, got a bunch of stuff to review, bunch of stuff to go over. So, first off, I guess let's just start with something that was just right on my mind there, is something called actions per minute. So, basically, if you take like a player around you guys' rank and then you compare them to a diamond player or a grandmaster player, right? The higher and higher up the ladder you're going, and the higher up in skill rating you're going, basically the more stuff you're going to be seeing people do. That's called actions per minute. How much stuff are they doing per minute? How much are they shooting? How much abilities are they using? How many, like, basically how much are they doing? Now, I'm seeing us kind of a lot of times take kind of short breaks when we're not really doing very much. Mainly like when we're looking at shields, we tend to not want to spam at shields, and when we're just kind of looking down corridors, we'll just kind of stare rather than shoot. So just make sure we're constantly actively shooting, so that we can be getting out a lot of damage that'll get you more. Even if we're not securing a kill, that gets us a ton of ult charge, gets damage in for other characters to get kills off of. On top of that, it seems like with our fire rate, we're shooting very, very slowly. With our fire rate, you don't have to tap click with Ashe. You can't hold it down. It doesn't do anything. But you can tap click faster than what you're doing. We're kind of clicking it, click, 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 right? That's kind of like the pacing that we're going at. But you can do this much, much faster to where you're going click, 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 right? Click, 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 right? You can do this much, much faster than how we're kind of pacing ourselves at. And when you shoot faster and you are doing damage faster, that therefore means that you're going to be killing things faster. And when you kill things faster, that's always going to be very good for you, because the faster something dies, the less time they have to get away, the less time they have to get healed, to use tanking abilities, right? And therefore you secure the kill and they don't get away. So you just want to make sure we're tapping faster, that we're doing things more often, as there's a lot of downtime where we're not really shooting that much. So we just want to make sure that we're constantly shooting. Dynamites, we already talked about that. Just make sure you're constantly dynamiting. And then now we're going to get into some of the bigger stuff here that we were looking at. So this one is called crosshair placement. Are you familiar with the term?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just do a quick review over it real quick, just because it hasn't seemed like we're really implementing it very well. But essentially, crosshair placement's using your brain to help your aim. It's placing your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the easiest shots. If we are aiming right here, we need to hit headshots, which are very obviously, they do more damage. 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? You're going to be doing more damage, and as we discussed, that's going to mean that you're killing things faster, which is always better. We want to be making sure we're hitting headshots, and that means that if we're aiming at body level here, or at the ground, or anywhere that's not head level, it means that we have to adjust up and to the right or up and to the left. And the further our crosshair is to go, that means it's a harder shot, and therefore we're more likely to miss, right? It's a lot harder to go from here to there, right, and to hit that shot than it is to, already be aiming here and then just go to the right or go to the left. So the first step to good crosshair placement is making sure that we're aiming at head level, right? Because that makes headshots much, much easier to hit if we're constantly keeping our crosshair there. Whereas a lot of the times, I'm noticing that we're constantly keeping our crosshair here, and that means that all our default shots are now hitting bodies. Right?
Okay.
Now, Ashe is also a pretty spammy character, which we weren't doing too much of spam-wise, but in general, she is a pretty spammy character, which means that she's just doing a whole lot of damage output into shields and into team comps. But that means that basically we're just turning this corner, we're spamming down a corridor, right? That means that all our shots are just hitting bodies because we're aiming there. If we're now adjusting up and aiming head level, we're turning this corridor, and now all our shots are hitting headshots because we're aiming at head level, right? So big thing with crosshair placement. Now, second thing is, it's not just making sure we're aiming head level, but we also want to aim where we know people are going to be. If we know that someone's on the right side here, and we know that they're coming to the left, we're pre-aiming at head level, a little bit away from the wall, and you see there's very, very little adjustment that we have to make before we're able to actually shoot them, because our crosshair's already there. We know that they're on our left here, so we're pre-aiming left side, so when we turn this corner, we're already aiming at their head. Right? Very little adjustment. Here, these guys are a little bit slanted downwards, so like the same way that on a Torbjorn you'd be aiming a little bit lower, on a tank you'd be aiming a little bit higher, right? We're aiming a little bit lower than head level on these guys, so that when we turn this corner, it's very little adjustment, right? And again, we're not doing a slow pan where we're just kind of going, wee, right, and then turning. We're making sure we're already aiming here so that we're pretty much turning the corner, aiming at their heads, right?
Okay.
Now, moving on to some positioning stuff. With our positioning, just to go more into depth on just general positioning, and this is something that's going to apply to all characters, all roles, most FPS games out there, so this is something that's going to apply to Koga as well, is if we are standing here, right, and there's a whole 6 enemies standing there, and they're all shooting at us, it takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover. Now, of course, you can't shoot through solid objects, so here we're safe. Even if they're ulting, even if they're shooting at us, we're not going to die because we have something in the way. Okay? But in that time it took us to get here, we ended up dying. Now, when we're here, we're in a lot safer of a position because here we can be shooting at them the same, except for in about half of a second we can go like this, and now they cannot shoot at us, they cannot see us, right? So therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. If we're out in the open, that's not where you want to be because you're going to die a lot easier and not be able to do very much. Okay? And there's a lot of different types of cover, right? So the further away we stray from it, the worse positioning it is, right? This is very bad positioning, right, where we're standing. But, you know, we also have slopes here where we can use something like this. We have pillars are a big one, right? So every time we're reloading, we duck behind cover when we're low health in between shots, right? When we can use corners like for the same thing. Corners are another big major one. Any random object you find lying, you can use payload dodge out of line of sight and to use as cover. Pillar, corner, doorway, corner, right? High ground all acts as natural cover. So this whole thing here all acts as natural cover. They can see us. Now they can't see us. They can see us. They can see us. Can't see us. See us. Right. So all of high ground is very fantastic positioning. On top of that, it means that most characters in the game can't get to us, right? They have to use stairs to get to us, and then the characters that can, they have to use abilities, in which case we can coach gun them away, we can drop from high ground to our team, we can run away, right? But it means that basically we have more survivability is on top of just using it as cover. Okay? Thirdly, high ground gives us the fact that we have visibility, right? In 1 second we can be over here shooting at stuff, and the next second we can be over on the other side of the map shooting at stuff. Right? When you're on a low ground, we can no longer see the high ground, and we can't see stuff over there, so we lose a whole bunch of visibility, and we can't see stuff over there. When we're on a high ground, we can be over here too, right? So we lose a whole lot of visibility when we're on low grounds as well. So on a character like Ashe, we're really going to benefit from that. So that's a whole lot of positioning stuff. Now we're also going to go over, I believe, like one more thing, and then I think we'll move. But we're gonna go over target priority. So what do you want to be shooting at? And this will apply to all this will apply to pretty much all characters. So this is important for Koga as well. You pretty much don't want to be shooting at tanks. Tanks aren't what you want to be focusing. Now of course there are some times you shoot them. We'll talk about that in a moment. But in general, tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other targets, right, of DPS and supports. They have defensive abilities and eats and defense matrix and bubble, right? Now, tanks are what we want to shoot at. DPS and supports also just do have more statistical output. DPS do the damage, supports do the healing. Now, tanks are a very important role in the game, but they are the ones who create space. They don't output any specific statistic. So that means that DPS and supports are just the things that we want to be looking at and shooting at. Now that we're going to talk about in a second how our positioning is going to change knowing that fact. But there are certain times to shoot at tanks, right? It's not like you never shoot at them. When tanks are the only thing to shoot at, you shoot at them. When tanks are low, you shoot at them. When they're out of position, we shoot at them. But if we have an equal opportunity, like right here, if this is a tank and this is a support, we're not going to actively be shooting at this guy when this guy's out in the open right next to him. Right? So we want to just prioritize what we're shooting at. On top of that, we also want to actively seek out supports in DPS, right? We don't want to actively seek out tanks. So this is where we get into something called off angles. So we might have gone over that. Did we go over that in Ana when with Ana nades? Did we cover off angles?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically the exact same concept, except for you might want to stay there even a little bit longer, because on Ana, you need to get back to heal your team. On a DPS, you stay there as long as you can before you start getting shot at by the enemy team and pressured by the enemy team. Right, so just as a refresher, right, enemy team's there, we're here. Right, instead of trying to sit on the front line and just shooting at their shields and tanks, which isn't going to get us a ton of value, Instead, we can go to the side here, get a dynamite off, shoot at them from the side, as we can stay here until they pressure us, and then we back out. Alright, we can look to take a high ground. This can get us above shields. High grounds are going to be fantastic. Same thing, if they're here, we're here. Rather than trying to just shoot through the main angle, we're not really going to get much accomplished. We want to take a different angle, right? Take an off angle, right? Come up from above, right? Shoot at their backline. You just get above the tanks, get above the shields, right? Get around that. Again, you don't on Ashe. You don't really want to go for flanks too much at all, really at all. Maybe only if you like it's in between fights. But besides that, flanks can be really dangerous and just take you outside of the fight for a really long time. There are only certain characters that really benefit from flanks. Ashe isn't really one of them. So yep, just look for off angles because a large portion of play was spent just on the front line staring at tanks, right? Which just meant that we didn't really accomplish very much even when we were shooting at things, right?
Yeah.
Then we can probably, you guys can look to go ahead and get into a queue here. Any questions on any of that stuff?
I don't think so, no.
Alright. And then just real quick, the difference between left click and right clicking, or like when you want to be using each. Left click is when you're either when something's really low and you're trying to just finish it off. Like, so for example, you can just do that, right, to finish something off. Or you can also use it when you're like, when something's right on top of you, because when someone's right on top of you, your right click's going to slow you down and make you an easier target to shoot at, as well as it's going to be a little bit harder to hit people when they're when they're right on top of us. So you're going to want to left click when we have something in our face. And then, but besides that, you're not going to want to left click too much as it just kind of burns through your ammo very, very fast. So you're going to be right clicking most of the time, but there are situations where you should be left clicking.
Okay.
All right. Yep, I'm just going to stop the stream here.
I'm also gonna play support while Koga is playing support, just so the queue's a little quicker.
Alrighty. Yeah, you can also, like, if you guys are like not wanting to go over them in any particular order, we can always you guys can just queue for multiple roles, and then that way you get the games faster.
That's true.
Like if you're trying to do tank and support and tank and DPS, right? Then that means that you can just queue for both of them, and then now the queues might come a little bit faster. Though it might maybe put you on tank, prioritize you guys on tank. Right, I'm spectating.
Traveling to Havana.
Right, so Kogo, are you doing Baptiste?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I'll be watching over you.
Stop it. Hold up now.
Damage increased.
Thank you kindly.
You said you was arm wrestling me. Nervous?
Nervous? Me? Never!
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
Messi. Well, it's high noon somewhere in the world.
It's good to be working with you again, Dr. Ziegler.
And under better circumstances, too. This experience.
Get behind me!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Escort the enemy.
We cannot.
Flight routine activated.
Watch for that sniper.
Yeah, make sure you're reloading every time you have a lull in the fight so that you can just get your ammo back. So you're not stuck at like 2 ammo on your right click. So it's just anytime you're not immediately doing anything.
Burst activated.
right? Haven't used our immortality at all, and there's people dying left and right around us. Make sure we're looking to use that more often. Immortality is the biggest part of our kit on Baptiste, so we want to make sure that we're looking to put a lot of thought and attention and effort into it, because it is a very, very powerful ability, and we just want to make sure we're looking to use it. So anytime we see someone's low or in danger, we're looking to throw it out to save them. There, make sure we're paying attention to tab and kill feed and just our surroundings as we were pushing in when we didn't really have any of our tanks or teammates alive.
Alright.
So just make sure you're not pushing up on your own.
Got you good as new. Regen burst activated. My turn.
Don't worry, my friend. I am your shield.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Reinhardt.
Heroes never die.
Get in here.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
You owe me.
Don't you?
How about a little extra here? Let me show you how it's done. Hold up.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Right, so that is now fight number 2. We've gone without using your ultimate, so same thing as I was talking about with Mars is when you don't use ults, they don't get value, so make sure we're looking to use them, and we'll also be charging up more in the meantime, which now means that you're getting even more ults. An easy way to compare this is to go, okay, well, let's say the enemy Baptiste used their ultimate before you. Well, if they use their ult, they get kills, and they get damage, and they get healing in, and that means that they're at an advantage. Now, if you use your ult after that point, it's just not going to get as much value as their Bap Lamp got because he used it first.
Let them out.
Yep. Good timing with it, but make sure you're not running ahead of your whole team, right? You want to do it when the fight's starting, not before your team's in position. So just pay attention to where your tanks are at. Don't walk ahead of them. We kind of ran out into the open there to use it. So it's a good timing that you're looking to use at the beginning, but make sure you're not looking to use it so early that your team's not even ready for it.
D'accord. Regen burst activated.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Reinhardt.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Get in here.
10
Oh, looks like you needed some healing. You owe me.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time standing out in the open, so kind of same stuff I was talking about with Mars is that you want to make sure that you're respecting positioning and cover usage and making sure that you're not out in the open, but you're using objects, corners, doorways, cover to block damage from coming to you. So just make sure we're not standing out in the open, right? We can use, for example, the left room next to payload. Right, we can use this little pillar that's right in front of us. Alright, we're gonna go over a few things real quick in the training range before you guys go ahead and get into another queue. Right, now that was a really short game in comparison to the last one. So there we were on Baptiste. Doing a quick roundabout of your kit, looking like no real problems with shift. It's not a super powerful ability anyways, so usually most people aren't gonna have too much with it. Immortality usage, you're doing. We were holding on to it a lot to start off, but I think it got a little bit better. Now, I think problem that arose was that with most of their mortalities, they're going out into the open. Now, our team is also out in the open, so that we didn't really have much of a choice, but just keep in mind, whenever you have the option, we want to make sure that our immortality is doing the same thing as we're doing, taking good cover. So if we're throwing immortality right here, that's going to mean that immortality can get shot at by the enemy team, and it's super easy to kill. Right? Whereas if we throw immortality right here, right, it's doing the same thing, getting the same value, except for now they can't shoot at it because it's behind cover. So we want to placing it. We're placing it behind corners, behind wall, like pillars, right, behind inside doorways, right. If we threw it right here, we'd still get the value out of it. So it's not out in the open because that means that we get its max uptime. Just make sure you're looking to frequently. Better with that after the point. Just make sure you're not holding on to it. Ultimates, I think, just in general, make sure you're not holding on to it. You want to, when it comes to anytime a fight has not been won or lost, but we can't completely ignore our team and run in without them and just plop our ult on point. We want to make sure we're still going in with our team. We're waiting for them to push forwards. Then as soon as we see both teams start to kind of brawl with each other, they're getting close to each other, they're starting to fight it out. Right, then we use our ultimate so that we can get value out of that. Right.
Okay.
Now moving on, I think that one of the bigger parts that you're dealing with is your awareness, and awareness is really important. When you're unaware of what's happening around you, you're incapable of making good decisions. If Widowmakers behind us, hey, there's a Widowmaker behind us, let's, not get shot, right? So we can't actively make good decisions when we don't have information, and having information comes from awareness. So awareness is a really important thing to have, and, that might seem a vague thing to start improving at, like how that can be applied. But basically, there's a bunch of different types of awareness, and just to specify what parts of awareness, because there is a lot of awareness. You have HUD awareness, you have kill feed awareness, you have general awareness around you in game, so game awareness, and then you have like team comp awareness, and then you could even add in like ultimate in there, like with our ultimates and the enemy team ultimates. We're not gonna get. I don't think that we had too much of an issue paying attention to like time bank. I think that we did want to just make sure we're paying attention to our immortality cooldowns and our ultimate cooldowns, because that'll let us know like when do we have our abilities up, when are we able to use them, and that'll help us use them a bit faster. We did that decently, but it still is distant. So that you can request healing and use shift when you're low. So just make sure paying attention to that. But I think where you really start to see a lot of the inconsistencies in awareness come through is when we're talking about in-game general awareness. Now, sorry, there's another part of awareness too, and that's just audio awareness and listening for things. But the big one we're struggling with is just in-game, where are the enemy teammates at, where are our teammates at, and that led a lot of mistakes. We ended up getting shot a lot because we weren't paying attention to the Widowmaker. We ended up walking in without our team a couple times because we weren't paying attention to our team. So we want to make sure that we're looking around us. We're not just kind of doing we're not always staring forwards. We're not doing slow pans. We're just going like this all the time and going like this. We want to make sure that we're looking right, looking left, that we're doing a 360 once in a while. We want to make sure that we're not in the front of our team. Our tanks need to be in the front of our team. We're in the back of our team, right? So we need to positioning so that we're not in the front. As we walked ahead of our whole team like twice. Make sure that you're paying attention to where the enemy team is at. We ended up getting like shot at by like Widowmaker. There was a time where like we were walking out of spawn and the fight's happening up here, and Widowmaker was on your right, and she was like we could see the shots that she was shooting, and we could hear her, and she was shooting almost at us, and we didn't really notice her. So just want to make sure as well that we're listening to audio, that we're upping our volume if need be. Right, I'm at 20% right now. I usually have this at 100 while I'm playing, but I lower it so I can hear people talk while coaching. right? And just make sure that you're listening to in-game footsteps, to gun sounds, to ultimates, to abilities, and that's all going to up your awareness. Top of that, we're also struggling a little bit when it just comes to watching kill feed. Make sure you're paying attention to who's winning or losing fights, and then that's going to dictate whether or not we need to use ultimates and whether or not we should be getting aggressive or playing passive. Now, now that we've gone over all different types of awareness and what you're really struggling with, we're going to go into how that can be applicable, because that seems like a very complicated topic to apply. I might have talked last time, so if I start talking here and I'm just repeating myself, let me know, and I'll just, just give you a quick reminder, going really into depth on it. But
Okay.
really, how you focus on is that you focus on anything else. Making sure that you're really focusing in on it, not autopiloting while you play. Easiest way to not improve at the game is to autopilot while you play, to either think about only winning or to not even think at all while you play. Whereas how you improve at the game and how you get better is while you're playing, you need to be actively focusing in on a particular aspect of your kit. So, for example, we can be talking about awareness. We can go, how we would play and how we would improve while we play and focus while we play is we go, okay, we're playing awareness, 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 right? And we're constantly reminding ourselves, we're putting it at the forefront of our mind, we're thinking very heavily about it, and you'll notice that when you start to think, look left, look right, turn around, right, look at kill feed, pay attention to everything, and we're giving ourselves constant reminders for it, that your awareness will start to be a bit better. And if we do that for a long enough time, that will form as a habit. Now, once it forms as a habit, you no longer have to dedicate the same amount of brain power and focus, and that means you can move on to a different area. Right? So that's how we get consistent at things. That's how we look to improve on anything that we're talking about here. Right? Is we really, really focus in on one particular aspect of our kit or area. Make sure trying to focus on all 20 of the things we're about to talk about, right? But you're really focusing on category of things, or 1 to 3 kind of subcategories of things, right? So think about your ultimate, think about abilities, positioning, awareness, right? Focus in on one of them, not doing all of them at once, and that's how you look to really improve at things and focus in on your awareness.
All right.
Now you guys can look to go ahead and get into a queue. There wasn't too much to review since it was just a very short game. So just a quick strengths and weaknesses for both of you. Okay, Koga, right? Ability usage, shift, no problem. Immortality, just use it frequently and make sure it's behind cover. Ultimate usage, make sure you're not holding on to it and you're using it at the very beginning of fights, but not too early. Positioning, make sure that you're not running ahead of your team, that you're standing behind them, as well as respecting cover usage and staying behind cover. Right. Then onto awareness, make sure that you're one of the bigger ones. Make sure you're paying attention pretty much most parts of awareness. I don't think that you have too much of a problem with paying attention to team composition, and I don't think that we really worry about ultimates, but really focus in on your awareness of your HUD, the kill feed, audio awareness, happening around you in-game. Really those 4 categories. Mechanics-wise, I don't think that you really have the mechanics. That was one good... I did it because it wasn't really a problem. So really doing good on mechanics end. Mars, right? We were playing Ashe last time, so just quick strengths and weaknesses. Right, Dynamite, just make sure you're using it frequently, and Coach Gun, just I honestly didn't see any problem with those. So ability usage looking pretty solid. Just make sure you're continuously using Dynamite frequently. You toss it up to get it above shields. Ultimates, pretty much same thing as we were talking about with Koga. Use it frequently. Use it at the start of fights. Don't hold on to it. Positioning, make sure that you're trying to position yourself on off angles to get around tanks, and you're not staring at tanks. And then it comes into target priority as well. Also, let me know when you get into a game here, because I'm not watching. Right. Then on positioning end as well, make sure you're respecting cover usage. You're not walking out to the open. Moving on to awareness. I don't think that awareness... let me think. I don't think that awareness was as much of a problem with you as it was Koga. I cannot recall everything about what we talked about with awareness. Maybe just making sure you're watching kill feed. But besides that, I don't think we struggled with that as much. But then I think you two kind of where you flip flop. Like the difference between you two would be Koga more mechanically sound but lacking in awareness. Mars, you're more lacking in mechanics and then a little bit more in depth with your awareness. So mechanically struggling a little bit. So make sure that you are looking to make sure you're aiming head level and keeping good crosshair placement, aiming where you know people are going to be. Make sure as well that you're upping your fire rate by just clicking it faster. So like click, 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 click. Right as soon as it comes off, right, you should just kind of be spamming it rather than just doing very slow clicking. And then also just make sure you're looking to up your actions for a minute and do more, right? Rather than just kind of sitting around and staring at things, right? We want to make sure we're actively looking to do things, right?
Okay.
So that also all that stuff could be subject to change. We might get new main points when we're going over through the next hour and 15 minutes here, but we'll see. So I think we'll go back to Mars. What are you guys queuing for now? Are you doing tank?
I'm queuing for DPS again, just because I
DPS.
want another Ashe game.
All right. Alrighty, I'm spectating, guys.
Right.
Traveling to Nepal.
Nice, fun, long queues we have here.
Yeah, for
That took
real.
forever.
Yeah, if the queues are gonna stay that long, unless you guys like wanna, unless you guys are swapping over to tank next time, you could probably just queue while I'm talking in the training range.
Alright.
Alright.
Hopefully it doesn't cut out halfway and then all of a sudden be a fast queue.
Yeah.
Hi.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture the objective. The power of destruction.
You needed a doctor? Bless your heart. Behind you.
Okay, very nice. Make sure you're looking to open up using dynamites.
The objective is now active.
This will restore you. This is going to
Smoke him out of there. Enemy seen.
get into position.
Here it comes.
Till Valhalla. This will heal you.
My ultimate is charged. I'm taking smoke him out of there.
Okay. Probably rather than standing on point, we want to be around the outer rims, not standing on the open, because not really any cover on point.
Bear the damage. I'm under attack.
Thanks.
Alright, so rather than standing on point, you might want to be more towards the left where like Hanzo is. Alright,
Okay.
that gives us a bit more cover, means that we're not on the open, and it gives us some like off angles to work with that gets around shields, and it isn't just going from the main angle that our team's standing on.
Get into position.
Barrier no longer exists.
Right. There's a poor way to use those angles though. We still want to make sure that we're being careful. Since you're not with your team, you have to be a little bit more passive and we can't be super aggressive. So if Sigma's pushing you, you back up. You don't try to contest him because you're not going to win in that duel against a Sigma.
Yeah.
You needed a doctor? Thanks.
My barrier is destroyed.
Help me. Time to read my ultimate is almost
Get into position.
Mecha activated. Smoke him out. Thank you.
Double
Okay, good usage of Bob.
an expedient solution.
I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty.
Going to the Yeshu. Allow me to repair the damage.
Thanks. Understood. Thank you.
This will restore you.
Fire in the hole.
Not ready.
You make sure that when you're low that you're requesting healing or you feel like you're under pressure because Sigma's on you. That way your supports know where you are, that you need healing. There's also a health pack right over on the left side if you want to go for that as well.
Okay.
You just want to make sure that we're taking some steps rather than just trying to run away.
You needed a doctor? Thank you.
This is my will.
Thank you.
Like right there you can see a health pack on your left.
Yeah.
back.
Surrender to my will.
Thanks. First
Okay,
round.
a little bit better. I think crosshair placement's still going to be one of the big ones to work on, though it is, of course, that's a little bit of a tougher one to get used to, right? It's definitely a habit that you need to build, so I don't expect it to be perfect on the second game that you're trying it. So,
Yeah.
just continuously look to work on that, though I'm not going to try to, since we've already discussed the topic, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Just know that that is a big major point.
Yeah.
Though I did like that we were upping the rate of fire. I saw that round we were actually shooting more faster. Dynamites, I liked them that we were looking to get out consistently, and then we did. I think just in general, you'll notice that you'll start to get more ultimates the better ult management we have, as well as and like the faster we're using it. But then also just the more we're doing, as oftentimes like the higher up you go in ranks, the more ultimates you'll see them use per like game. There we only got to use one, whereas in a higher ranked lobby you might see them use two in that same amount of time. So that just means that we need to. That's an indication that we're maybe not doing as much damage as we could be doing.
Thanks. The objective is now.
So got something.
Forward barrier.
And make sure you're paying attention to your dynamite, because you're not just gonna have it one time for a fight, right? You're gonna get it a couple times. You want to look to use it a couple times. After that, pay attention to your health bar. So I think that with you don't struggle too much on knowing where people are on the map, and I don't think we've seen too much trouble with kill feed watching. But you definitely want to make sure that you're just paying attention to your HUD more often and looking at your cooldowns, paying attention to your health. You pay attention to your health whenever you see that you've taken damage and people are shooting at you. Yeah. Well,
I need healing.
press it a couple times to people if they don't look at you.
Thanks.
Right, just lets them know where you are, gives them an audio cue.
Yeah.
Activating self-destruct sequence. I'm taking this down. Suiting up. Ice wall coming up.
Just point me in the right direction. Till Valhalla.
My barrier's down. Enemies over there.
There, we might have been able to save our Widowmaker if we coach gun the Mei away.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Do something.
Nerf this.
So there, just make sure you're not panicking and you're looking for cover to get behind. Right, we could have rotated around that little around this little pillar here with the health pack. We could have gone inside. We could have even used the bridge shield, but we were behind the bridge shield and then we coach gunned outside of it. So just make sure we're not panicking. We're looking for something.
Yeah.
Right. Don't feel like you always have to follow your team around and go in the same direction as your team. Especially like if you have like one or two other people come with you, like a Mercy, for example. We might have been potentially been able to go like top right. And then that means that we can contest the. I think they had like a Widowmaker, or did they had someone, a sniper. We could have gone for. We could have gone a different angle to go for them. Just you got to make sure that you're being careful on those, as we could be easily contested. But it will give us really good angles to shoot from. Whereas you could tell there we weren't really able to do much from main.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 3. Capture the objective.
Use your coach gun for just some faster movement whenever you're coming out of spawn. That way you can look to just get places faster, get back to fights faster.
Yeah.
Alright, I think We might talk about distance after this.
I'm taking care of you.
I think top right was a good idea. Just want to, like, either top right or left side. Just again, make sure
Okay.
our priorities aren't just shooting at tanks, as we spent a large portion of that first point just staring at them only.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Till Valhalla.
And we can continue to walk left side and look to just go up a little bit towards where Monkey is. Just don't want to go too aggressive.
Vamos esculachar!
Come on, everyone. Here it comes. 不许走. Keep cover. I've got you covered. The road takes a little
Okay.
Bob. There's this.
Probably look to finish off the baby before she has a chance to get back in mech. So we can like dynamite her there. We can just look to shoot at her before bomb goes off or right after bomb goes off, right? She's
Okay.
she's a very easy target to kill when she's remeching, right? Because she's standing still. So that just if we wait for bomb to explode and then turn the corner, she's gonna be calling down mech, and you just have to one tap her in the head with your right click, right? Or with your scope shot. Watch your ammo. Right, just make sure we're paying attention to our HUD, right? Make sure every time we have an opportunity reloading so we're not coming in with one shot.
Yeah.
Right. You probably go down to point here. Like I'll tell you why after the round's done. We'll talk about it. Mainly it's just the distance that you're playing out. It's a little too far.
Okay.
I'll demonstrate it after we're done.
Time to raise my APM.
Here it comes.
Yep. So kind of with our positioning, we should be looking to just take control of the left side as well as like kind of participate in main. Just since it's very open, we can look to zone it out pretty well. Make sure you're looking to respect cover though. So rather than standing on the open there, we could stand maybe closer to the point where we have some walls to work with.
Patching you up. I'm gonna get you for that.
Right. So what I was saying was more like we can take it upon ourselves to just kind of patrol left side, make sure no one's coming left side, because it's a very wide open area where we can look to contest very easily.
Yeah.
Patched up.
Roll it to me. Watch this. Nerf this. Help me. 不许走.
All right, whenever you're getting frozen, always try to kind of look down at the very last second. That can stop you from getting headshot too easily if you're like looking away and looking at the ground. Other thing is just there we again had some opportunities where like to shoot at tanks where you don't want to focus them, but if there was a half HP hog and then there was a baby diva, right, who had just bombed, so just keep in mind like those are some baby diva is a lot easier of a target to kill than a regular diva, and a half HP hog is who's I think he might have been ulting as well, just gonna as well be a pretty easy target to finish off. So just look for opportunities on tanks, but you definitely don't want to make sure you're focusing them. Now,
Yeah.
here, just going to stream real quick, though I don't have too much to go over, so you can look to just stay in queue. Right, so sometimes high grounds aren't gonna like I know we talked about how high grounds are good, but sometimes they're just gonna be too far outside of fights. So if it's too far away for you to first off see anything, like if we're on the high ground over here, right? But the fight's happening all the way over there, we're not really gonna be able to participate very much. We can't do anything from here. We can't see anything. So even though it's a high ground, we want to be on a high ground only if it's in the fight, right? If it's next to the fight. And the other thing is that with your gun, you have very, very long drop off with your shots. So you have what you call fall off. So the further away you get, the less and less damage you're doing. So when we're right up here on someone, this is easy to see with your left click. It takes us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots to kill them. Okay, we come all the way back here, and we come up. So it literally halves our damage, and we want to make sure that we are standing more towards a medium distance, right? On top of that, the further away we are, the harder the shots are to hit, because when we're all the way back here, they're going to be tinier, tinier, and tinier, and tinier, which makes it harder and harder to hit shots, right? So we want to make sure that instead of playing at a super far distance, we're looking to play more towards a medium distance, right? You're not... Widowmaker can look to play at those ranges. Ashe looks to play more towards a medium distance, right? So you want to make sure you're not standing too far away and not standing on high grounds or outside of the fight, because what we were doing was we were kind of standing all the way back here away from the fight, and that just meant that we weren't really doing as much as we could have, right, if we were standing closer.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we got a game.
Yep, you're good. I'm spectating. Finally, the first fast cue is when I'm talking.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm on Kroga now.
Yeah.
Defense matrix activated. Time to raise my APM.
Barriers on you. Go.
All better.
Right. Don't look to just defense matrix random damage. It's not going to have a whole lot of value. You look to particularly target abilities and ultimates. On top of that, you can defense matrix if you're low or somebody else on your team is low. Right. So take a look at their team comp. We can look to eat Ryan Fire Strikes. We can look to eat Moira Orbs. We can look to eat Ana Sleeps and Nades. Right. We just want to pick out specific abilities and ultimates. On top of that, you're getting hacked quite a bit. Make sure you're putting a lot of attention to the Sombra, because you can very easily cancel her hack by just looking in her direction, as you have a very wide spread with your gun, right? So you can basically just tap her and now she can't hack anybody. So just make sure you're paying attention.
Hope you're online. Now show them.
My will made real.
Defense matrix activated.
Okay. Like what we were just talking about with Mars, Diva is has a range with her gun. Right? She doesn't have fall off, but she does have spread. So that means that the further away you are, the less and less damage you're doing. That means that you want to be right on top of people and right next to them, rather than trying to shoot at them from a very far distance. So very easy, good combo that you can look to do is boost at people and use your missiles, and then you can look to burn people down that way.
Let them out.
If you get demech'd, you can look to just spam your Q button, and you can ult even as you're getting out of your mech, and that can basically keep you in the fight rather than just killing you and making you a baby diva, and then that way you can participate still.
Okay.
I'm taking the point. Join me. Do I hate your attention?
Healing in. Be right back.
And make sure you're not holding onto your ultimate, right? We still want to use it as if we're in the fight here, but we're winning, right? So make sure, again, paying attention to kill feed.
Objective A captured.
Just pointing out that we've had it for a fight or two here.
Target
You have my thanks.
Let them out.
With this. Routing power to forward barrier.
Okay, we're looking to close the gap. You don't want to stand too far away, so taking top left high ground here would be a really good idea. Alright, well now the fight's done.
I'm gonna have to shoot you down. Enemy turret.
When the fight's over, you want to look to, like, when you see that you've lost the fight, right, by watching kill feed, just to reiterate, because we talked about it last time, 1 to 2 people is a disadvantage, 2 to 3 is a lost fight. When you've lost a fight, you want to look to get out if possible, and if you can't get out, you want to look to let them kill you so that you don't stagger yourself. There we staggered ourselves because we didn't do either. And we probably could have very easily gotten out. We could have just boosted over the building. We could have boosted out. Instead of we stayed in there for a very, very long time. So just make sure you're paying attention to whether or not you've won or lost the fight. Again, now that's the 3rd fight we haven't used our ult. So good job. We're using it.
Suiting up. Game on. Time to raise my APM.
Now,
To let off some steam.
Get in here.
I'm gonna have to shoot you down. Get through this.
You're powered up. Get in there.
I am unstoppable. Enemy turret ahead. Let's make your enemy turret not gonna bother us anymore.
alright.
You're going to be fine.
Thank you.
Enemy contact.
Graviton surge is ready.
Next time.
I will make
What we hope
Let them out.
Alright, now I will apologize because on Diva it is slightly different than most other characters. On Diva, you're not going to use your ultimate the second that the fight starts, unlike what you might do on a Baptiste. On Diva, if you're using your ult right as the fight starts, that means that they don't really have to. They can put all their attention into dodging the bomb, right? If you're using your ultimate in the middle of the fight, then that means that now they have a lot less attention to dedicate to your ultimate, and it means you're getting a lot more value. So rather than the fight, the second the fight starts, you want to look to give it a second or two. Wait until they've all been distracted. Nice ults.
I'm back in the fight.
Okay. We're often trying to use our. I'll demonstrate this afterwards, but we're often trying to use our missiles like when we're a mile away from people. Look to use it when you're boosting at people to get close to them.
Get in there.
You better get out of the way.
60 seconds remaining.
behind you.
Defense matrix activated.
Yeah, but we'll definitely go over some of the combos and ranges that you have on Diva, because that's seeming like a very repeatedly big problem. I like your nodding.
30 seconds remaining.
I'm too young to die.
If I could make a suggestion, we should get the payload moving.
Let them out.
10 seconds
Time's
remaining.
running out. Everyone attack. APM door number 9.
What we hope to witness.
Behind you.
Defense matrix activated.
Alright, like what we talked about with Mars, you're spending a whole lot of time focusing on tanks, which are going to be very, very difficult for you to kill. As Diva, we have the ability to boost at people and get behind onto like their supports and DPS very easily because we have a 3-second booster cooldown. So just make sure that we're not continuously shooting at like the Reinhardt there, especially when he's nanoed and very unlikely to die to you. Now we're gonna go over quite a bit of stuff here. I'm streaming. So on Diva, you do not have you don't have damage fall off. At least I don't believe you do. But most of what comes, mainly why you want to play close to people is because the further and further away you get, the more spread your damage has. Right. So when we're right here on somebody, we can melt them fairly fast. Right. We can, if we're headshotting people, we can melt them very, very fast. And if we're adding in a missile and a boost, we can melt people very, very, very fast, right? So the basic combo you want on Diva. Actually, we'll talk about the range first, just because this is inherent and get it, right? The further and further back we go, the less and less damage. So when we're right here, we can melt them pretty decently fast as long as we have good tracking. But you know, now that we're getting over here, now we're doing very little, very, very little damage. Look at how slowly we're tickling them to death. And we're hitting most of our shots here, right? Because of the fact that you're missing most of the pellets because they're all spread out, right? Further and further back we go, we're doing pretty much absolutely nothing. We're just pretty much wasting time from here. And it's kind of your missiles, they do not have fall off damage, so we can do this and kill somebody and do the same amount of damage from anywhere. But the problem is, it's very, very inaccurate if we're trying to use our missiles from a very long distance, and we're going to be very difficult to kill people if we're just doing this and trying to pelt them from a distance back here, right? So we want to make sure we're getting right in on top of people. Now, we can't be right here on somebody all the time, but what we try to look to do in the combos that we're trying to pull off is something like this, where we boost at people. When you boost, when we get close enough to them, you can look to cancel it by clicking it again, or you can look to cancel it by meleeing, and those are the two ways you can cancel it. But we're going to boost at somebody, we're going to shoot at them, and we're going to missile all the exact same time, and we do a ton of damage by doing this, right? So we're getting closer to them, which allows us to do more damage with our gun, and it makes it super accurate for our missiles, right? So we can boost at people, go like this, and then we can swoop out and go somewhere else, or we can cancel it. You can cancel it on top of them with a melee, and that just does some extra damage, so we can kind of boost at someone, and then we can melee them to finish it and to do some damage there at the end. If you need to, you can replace your shooting with your right click, but just boost at them with missiles, like so. Right? That way you can look to negate abilities such as like sleep or nade, or important if they have stuns, and you can also look to just negate damage if you're low HP. Right? In general, we talked about how you want to look to use your defense matrix, and I think we did a pretty good job after we were paying attention to it. Just make sure that you're really, at the beginning of a game, press tab and go, okay, what are all the things that we need to look to save defense matrix for? Because there's a ton of stuff that you can look to use it for, and a ton. You can eat almost half the ultimates in the game, right? So Orisa, you eat pulls. Reinhardt, you eat fire strikes. Roadhog, you can eat when he lands a hook. You eat your teammates so that they can't get killed. Sigma, not really much you can look to eat. Winston, nothing. Wrecking Ball, nothing. Unless he's just making someone low health. Zarya, you can look to eat her ultimate. Ashe, Dynamite. Bastion, ultimate. Doomfist, nothing. Echo, you can look to eat her stickies, and then if she ults into a character, you can look to eat those ultimates, right? Genji, not really anything. Hanzo, not really anything. But you can look to eat his dragon. Junkrat, not really anything, right? McCree, you can look to eat his ultimate. Mei, ultimate. Pharah, ultimate. Reaper, ultimate. Soldier, ultimate. And Helix. Sombra, you can't eat anything, but you can look to contest her. Diva's a pretty good character to contest her because you can decloak her pretty easily by shooting around and doing what you call spy checking. So if a Sombra is invisible, because you have a very big spread on your gun, you can do this and look around, and that can decloak her. You want to make sure that you're just doing a quick solid sweep, and then you're trying to focus in on areas where you know she could be hiding, right? So like behind your team, in corners and stuff like that. Right. Now Symmetra, not really much. Torbjorn, you can eat his ultimate. Tracer, you can eat her ultimate. Widowmaker, nothing. Ana, both her abilities. Baptiste, not really too much. Brig, not too much. Lucio, not too much. Mercy, not too much. Mora, her orbs. Zenyatta, not too much, right? But so you have a ton of stuff that you can look to specifically target and eat, and then that way you're not just wasting all of your resource like kind of on random spam damage, right? So the 2 times we're specifically looking to use our ultimates is on abilities / ultimates, and if our teammates are low, because if they're low health, then we can look to put a cone of protection around them, and now they're not taking damage, right? Same thing with ourselves. If we're low, we can put the cone of protection around ourselves, and now we're not taking damage. Now just ultimate real quick. You want to use it when you kind of have 2 ways to use your ultimate, right? When they're distracted or from an angle that they're not expecting. So whenever we're looking to use your ultimate, we never really want to just plop it. So I like that we have the good tech where we're launching it in, but we also want to be a little bit you want to make it as how do I say this? You want to make it as non-obvious as you can. You want it to be a surprise bomb, right? You want them to be like, where the heck is this at? So that they don't know where to hide. So for example, rather than just sitting here on point, right, going straight up in the air and then having bomb land on the point, right? Now that is pretty good. It zones them out. It might get a kill or 2, but it might be a little bit predictable as well. What we can do is like do something like this, where we kind of are on top of the high ground. They don't really know where it's coming from. We launch it straight forwards so that it's exploding and dropping pretty much on their heads, and they don't really know where it's coming from until it's too late. Right? We also look to do kind of the same thing from like, if we're doing it from like the back alley here, we can look to like just launch it through here. We can look to just drop it off the high ground. We can look to we could just do it straight up right in the air. That's fine too. Like here, if we're trying to get on the other side of this, we can launch it over the building, right? Or we can go up top here and then launch it straight down, like kind of straight at a downwards angle here. We just want to make sure we're being trying to be surprising with it, and on top of that, just it's a little bit different than other ultimates in that you just don't want to use it the second the fight starts, like I said, because they'll be able to very easily dodge it if you do that. But we also don't, like we've been talking about, you don't want to hold on to it for too long, because then you don't ever get the chance to use it, right? You look to get into a queue if you weren't already.
Alright.
Right, so kind of same thing. We can look to just kind of bring a surprise angle where they might not be thinking about it from. Right, it just means that they don't really know it's coming until the last second. Alright, I see you're in game. I'm spectating.
Traveling to Horizon Luna Colony.
Everything can be hacked.
Alright, so we were just doing... Okay, so now we're doing Mars on the Diva. So a lot of the same, just keep in mind a lot of the same stuff we were just talking about, right? First thing we're doing right off the bat is looking at what abilities are we and ultimates are we looking to target, and then from there we'll kind of take a look at the rest of your gameplay.
Damage amplified.
Weapons is all systems operational. Diva, ready for combat.
No.
How barbaric.
King. No. There's no prize for coming in second.
So here we can look to be like position yourself on the high grounds, right? We don't want to be on the low ground here. We can also be like top right or top left. That way we're a little bit closer than if we were just standing in the back there. Right, so they have a tracer so that we can eat her pulse. Alright, press and tab, they have a Moira, so we can look to eat her orbs. They have a Reaper, so we can look to eat his ultimate. Besides that, we're just using the rest of our defense matrix to defend people who are low health.
Show them there's no prize for coming in second.
Boosters engaged. Activated.
Okay.
There's no prize for coming in second.
Nice. Look to prioritize, you know, the, again, non-tanks. We kind of, first thing we're looking for there was the D.Va, and when there's a Zenyatta and the Moira right next to her, right, so just make sure we're looking around a bit more before we're instantly boosting at the hardest thing to kill.
Ultimate is charging.
Okay.
Bunny hop.
Besides that, good job with the boosts that people like it. We're getting kills easily that way.
Comes up.
There's no prize for coming. There's no prize for coming in second. There's no prize for coming in second.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Affirmative.
Now we're talking.
There's no prize for coming. There's no prize
Defense
for coming
matrix
in second.
activated.
My ultimate
My ultimate is almost ready.
Yep, not too much going on. They're not really pushing forwards at all.
Routing power to forward shield. Comes up.
And just be careful there, because we did boost kind of really far forwards and into a risky position because we didn't really have any team support either. So just be careful about a boost like that, because that could be a boost that ends up getting ourselves killed, especially at a higher rank where maybe they're a little bit more coordinated.
Okay.
APM to lower cut. Now show them.
There's no prize for coming in second.
Okay, here with our bomb, we're looking to locate where people are at, and then just kind of trying to do it maybe like from a surprise angle, maybe from a high ground.
enemy in my sight. You're powered up. Get in there.
I am unstoppable.
Again, don't try to focus the ball too much, right? Look to go on some other stuff. Because like we instantly melt the baby and get the soldier, right? Within 2 seconds, yet we spend about half the fight trying to look at ball and then don't accomplish anything, right? So you can just see it's a lot easier to try to kill those other things. Alright, good decision not to ult after you got nanoed there, because that would just cancel the ult.
Time to raise
But make sure we are looking to use bomb in this next fight here. Wait till they start trying to push, once they start trying to push forwards and take some space, that's when we can look to use it. Very nice.
Deactivated.
I need healing. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. I think you got a lot out of what I was talking about with Koga. Like, not really many mistakes being made. He kind of rolled them, so really good. Not too many things to go over there.
Thank you.
Right, the moment we try to not focus ball, you know, we go and get play of the game.
Should we just hop into another game then?
Yep, you can just go ahead and get another game. We'll maybe be able to do 1 or 2 more, and then we'll do the wrap up at the end. Alright, seeing you in game, I am spectating.
Traveling to Eichenwald.
Damage increased.
Alright, and back on you, Koga. So just as a reminder, we're looking for a lot of effort into our lamps. Make sure they're behind cover, using it often. Ultimates, unlike D.Va, we are looking now to use it a little bit more towards the start of fights. You know, just not too early. Make sure you're being very aware of your surroundings, looking around you. Try to give you some reminders. I'll start to talk a little bit more while you're playing here and just give you some reminders on what we should be doing and paying attention to certain things. Right. Big one is just remember to pay attention to where's our team at, where's the enemy team at.
Understood. Capture objective A.
The dragon awakens.
Regen up.
Right, when you're seeing your team's getting super aggro, just remember to you can toss in a lamp there if you see that the Reinhardt's about to get shredded. On top of that, make sure paying attention to the fact where your tanks are at, right? Try to follow them around. Tanks are kind of your job, right? Whereas DPS and you are going to be more of Mars's job on Mercy. So just follow your tanks around, try to stick with them, pay attention to what they're doing.
Regen burst activated. All better.
And we're up a bunch of picks here, so we're getting super aggro. We're starting to push forward as a team. We can look to, if our team's taking a lot less damage, we can look to start shooting more.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Oh, make sure that we're not jumping straight on point out in the open, as well as the fact that we died with lamp, which we can use to keep ourselves alive. Right.
Maintain that
So
positive
on top, the other thing there is that you want to be aggressive because you can kill them super easily, but if they're in the middle of a trance, that's no longer the same. That's no longer true, right? You can't kill them while they're in trance, so we gotta have to be a little bit more passive when they're trancing, because they can just kind of run at us and kill us for free. Now this is a little bit of a closer fight. Now we can probably look to use our ult.
You all look like you needed some healing. Let them out. Get in here. I'm at fighting. Let the dragon consume you. Need healing. Over here.
Marked by the dragon.
Self-destruct sequence. All systems locked out.
Regen burst activated.
Routing power to forward barrier. Routing power to forward shield.
Not the end. Nerf this.
Get in here.
Good job watching your health. You can contest far pretty easily as a hit scan character, so you just look to shoot at her rather than, for example, shooting at the D.Va who's a tank. So again, target priority. Take a look at your comp real quick. On our team, who's able to contest Farah?
Escort the payload.
Hanzo.
Join me.
D.Va and you, and that's it.
Oh.
Junkrat is not able to contest Farah, right? Ryan is not able to contest Farah. Mars Bar's only able to contest Farah with her ult. So make sure that you're just, whenever you have an opportunity and if she's contesting you and flying over on top of you, just look at her, right? She's going to be a lot easier for you to kill than a D.Va whose full HP is, right?
Okay.
Get in here. Get inside.
And look to use your shift there, or just pay attention, when you're low.
Reinhardt.
Oh, there, Mars, you probably could have looked to res her.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You kind of walked past her body.
All better.
Yep, like right now, there's not much healing to be done, right? Whenever there's no healing to be done, make sure that we're looking around to do damage, right? So specifically, like we can look to contest the Pharah, but then just also look to be shooting at other things, right? Because Baptiste does have a gun to shoot at things whenever he doesn't need to heal. So if we are paying attention to health bars and nothing needs healing, look around to do damage. Here, oh.
Heroes never die. Damage boost engaged.
Let me show you how it's done.
Watch your ultimate. All right, we could probably look to use that. All right, when you're about to cap point, where's the one place that the enemy team has to go?
Colored?
Point? Yep. So
Yeah.
if they have to go to point, where's the most dangerous place for you to be standing?
Point.
Yep. So rather than standing on point, sit a little bit further back on bridge. Or we could also look to, there's some rafters above point that we could probably look to go to as well. You just don't be standing in the one place that's most dangerous for you to be.
Ultimate is ready.
Understood.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Let's get the payload moving again.
Need heal. Got you good as new.
Right. Probably one of the bigger things this game is just survivability, as we're dying in some important spots where twice now. On first point we died when we were about to cap and we were winning. Second point here we were about to cap and it was pretty even until we died first, right? So just focus on staying alive because deaths are very obviously a big mistake that you want to look to fix because you get 0 value and negative value even.
My ultimate is charging.
Regen burst activated.
Heroes never die.
Adaptive circuits
Let me show you
engaged.
how it's done. Enemy turrets taken care of.
I've got you in my sight.
Oh,
Neutralized.
so same thing as we were talking about with, I believe, Mars earlier. We were talking about crosshair placement. Any character that can hit headshots wants to make sure that they're aiming head levels. So if we're just aiming at his body, then we hit body shots. If we're aiming head level, that means that we're a little bit able to hit headshots a lot easier. So just make sure we're just looking to do that. Here,
Okay.
we're paying attention to the fact that we have our ultimate, so we're thinking anytime where you're close to your ult, you're like 80, 90, you're thinking, okay, what are we doing with our ult here? Like, when and how are we using it?
Get in here. All better. Now.
Like,
60 seconds remaining.
Better. Let them out. Regen burst activated.
alright, it's unfortunate.
Uncanny
30
attitude
seconds
positive.
remaining.
Behind you. Ah! Thanks.
Make sure that you're paying attention to, sorry, in the last way, make sure you're paying attention to when you have somebody on your other support, because you guys can both keep each other alive pretty easily by pocketing each other, and when one of you doesn't pocket the other, then both of you die. So, kind of same situation there, right? When we stop looking at her for a second, and she dies, and now she can't heal you, and then you die.
Nothing to worry.
And we're coming up on a roll here, so as soon as we get it, we're using it.
Defeat.
Alrighty, so, let's see, do we... Sorry, I just tossed my mouse. Trying to think if we do the review now, or if we do that after another quick play game. Okay, why don't we do it after another quick play game? We'll do one more, maybe like half of another one or something like that. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I changed my mind. We're doing two different. We're doing. Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted.
Oh.
I don't know how I did that, but apparently I pressed that button.
It's okay.
So I apologize. We're gonna do a review now since we only have like 15 minutes left here, and we have 2 people to go over. So we'll just start on that now, so you guys can look to just get out of queue, and if you don't necessarily have to be in the game anymore unless you want to be, but that doesn't matter. So why don't we start with Mars first? So Mars, we went over Ashe and Diva, and did we go over anything else besides those 2? No? Alright. So we just went over Ashe and Diva. So on Ashe, right, we're just going to go around the circle, do some quick reminders. Dynamite, right, look to use that frequently. Make sure you're looking to get that above shields if they have shields. Don't just use it as you're coming into fights, as you're, every time it comes off a cooldown, basically. Besides that, I think your ability usage is looking pretty solid. I think the shift usage there's no problem with our shift usage, really. Moving on, ults, just make sure that we're looking to not hold on to them, look to use it at the very beginning of fights. Besides that, I think Bob placement's been pretty good so far. Just make sure what you're looking for with Bob, as a quick reminder, is that you're trying to get a crossfire effect with him. So we're trying to get him behind the enemy team, right, so that they have to go, do we look at the team or do we look at Bob? And then that splits their attention and means that they don't really focus fully on one or the other, so that's gonna be really, really good for us. Kind of creates an off-angle effect with your Bob. Okay, now moving on from that, going to your let's see, positioning. Make sure that you're going on off angles and you're not just staring at tanks all the time, because we saw over and over and over again throughout the session is that when we just shoot at tanks, it's going to be very, very difficult to kill them, and it takes a very long time, and they're not really what we want to be putting our main attention into. So make sure that you're taking off angles, you're taking high grounds, but on top of that, make sure that you're paying attention to your range, because sometimes they're going on high grounds that are too far out of fights, we're going too far away, so make sure we're staying at a medium range from people. Other just general positioning, make sure you're respecting cover usage, you're not straying too far out into the open. Then on from positioning to awareness, I don't think awareness was too much of a problem for you. Just make sure that we're just trying to stay consistent, pay attention to kill feed, pay attention when your team's with you and when they're not with you, and when you're winning or losing fights. Besides that, I don't think there was too much of a problem with awareness. I think awareness was one of the other ones we were doing pretty good in. But one of the bigger ones is our just general mechanics. Make sure that we're really focusing in on our crosshair placement, so we can hit easier shots and headshots and better shots, right? So just make sure you're putting a whole lot of effort into that. Make sure that we are just keeping up our fire rate, and we're going a little bit faster than just our slow paced shoot, right? Because we can shoot faster than that. Left click comes when they're low or when they're on top of us. Other than that, don't left click too much, because that'll just burn through a lot of ammo when it's not needed. Besides that, I think that's all for now in Ashe, but I'll talk. There might be some more if it comes to mind. Diva, I think you got a lot of the kind of. I think this is going to apply to both of you, right? Most of this stuff, because we talked about kind of the same thing, and you listened to what I was talking about with her. So pretty much the same thing with both of you here. Just make sure that you're staying within a close distance, because we can absolutely shred people when we're right on top of them. So boost at people. Look to use your whatever missiles when you boost at people, right? That way you can burn people down. But don't look to do that if you're just doing that in the middle of a team, right? Because then that's putting us in a bad situation, and you get your boost pretty fast. But if we're using it, it's a 4-second cooldown, right? If we're doing that and then we're ending up inside of their team or out in the open, then we could get shredded pretty fast. So just be very careful. And when we're boosting in at people, it should be when they're isolated. So like this guy, for example, who's like nowhere near his team, we can boost at him. It could be when they're down a bunch of people. It could be when they're low health or out of position, or you just have an opportunity to go in. Then that's when we boost at people. But we don't want to just do that when they're sitting in the middle of their team. Besides that, just bombs. Just look to be, not to hold on to it. Use it more towards the middle of the fight, and make sure that you're looking to use it from an angle that they're not expecting. Besides that, I don't know if there's very much else. Ammo just on an ammo ends, make sure you're reloading every time you get the opportunity so that you have ammo to work with. So we should be on top of, sorry, I missed another one. It was just on our mechanics end, make sure we're working on actions per minute. We're just doing things often and we're shooting at things. Anytime we can't see anything to shoot at or we have a lull in time, that's when we reload. So like after we kill something, right, we're just looking for something else to shoot, and in that time we're reloading. Right. One other thing I was gonna ask Mars is, what sensitivity are you working with on Ashe? Hello? I gotta reload my Discord.
Hello.
Hi, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Alright, so now I'm just gonna try to do my best to repeat everything I just said for the past 5 minutes,
Okay.
however long we were talking about. Alright, so at what point was that? Was it like as soon as I started streaming? Was that it?
Yeah.
Alright, well, that's a rip. Alright, so we're gonna do Mars first. So just going around the block of things that need to be worked on. So first off, ability usage. Dynamites, just make sure we're using them frequently, and we're throwing and when they have shields, we're throwing them a little bit up to get over the shields. Besides that, not too much of a problem with most of your ability usage. Ability usage looking pretty solid. Ultimate usage, just kind of same thing for both of you guys, is just make sure that you're looking to use them, not hold on to them, and use them, because then you'll be able to start charging your next one up faster. And when you don't use your ultimate, it doesn't get value. Make sure that we are looking to use it at the start of the fight so that we can get the most value out of it. I don't think you had too much of a problem with your Bob placement, but just as a reiteration, you're looking to place Bob at an off, kind of behind the enemy team, right, or to the side of them, so you create a crossfire effect. So they have to go, okay, do we look at the team or do we look at Bob? And that distracts them and it splits their attention, and it means they can't really focus on one or the other too well. So that's what we're just trying to do with Bob placement, but to be honest, that wasn't too much of a problem. Moving on, awareness, another one where I probably would say that awareness wasn't too much of a problem. For you, Mars, just make sure you're looking to keep it consistent, right? It's not the major thing you're working with, but it is a thing. So just look to pay attention to kill feed, look to pay attention to where your teammates are located, your HUD too. Moving on to the two of the most important ones I'll probably say with you is your positioning and mechanics. With your positioning, make sure that we are not standing out in the open, right? That we're standing next to cover, and then that way we're staying alive longer. Make sure that we're respecting our range and that we're not, standing as like a Widowmaker and not really doing much damage, but we're standing a little bit closer at a medium distance so we can do max damage. Make sure that you are, with your positioning, not just looking to stare at tanks, because as you both saw over the course of the session, that staring at tanks doesn't really do much, right? And it's very hard to kill them, and it also just isn't going to be max value. So whenever possible, look to focus the other guys, and that means that on a character like Ashe, you're looking to take a lot of off angles and high grounds, right? But make sure that high ground's not, in the fight, not all the way outside of the fight. Now, I think that is pretty much it with your positioning. Now, onto mechanics. Mechanics being one of the bigger things here on your Ashe is make sure we're keeping crosshair placement, keeping it at head level, right, so that we can hit easier shots, but then also aiming where we know people are going to be. If we see someone's going up top right here, we're pre-aiming here so we can hit that shot easier. Make sure that we're really focusing in on that, because that's a really important one. Now on top of that, just make sure you're keeping up your fast fire rate when you're shooting at people. You're not slowing down just for the sake of it, because that's just gonna make shots hurt, like make you do a lot less damage. In general, with your mechanics is going to be our actions per minute. Make sure we're not taking too many delays where we're not really doing much, but we're constantly trying to do something. Then besides that, make sure that just with your reload habits that we're reloading anytime we're not shooting at something or not having anything to do, right? So anytime we can't see anyone, we're just reloading so we get that ammo back so we can use it. That is pretty much it on our Ashe. So over to D.Va real quick. D.Va, for both of you, this is a lot of the same stuff because we talked about the same stuff. Make sure that you are respecting your distances as you do literally nothing from a distance because of your spread. So look to play close to people. That means that when we're trying to kill someone, that we're boosting at them and using our missiles to burn them down really fast. But just make sure that both of you aren't doing that when they're like when you're putting yourself in a bad position or in the middle of their team to do it. Like if there's 6 people standing there and we're just doing that, then now we're inside of them with 4 seconds till our next booster, and they're just gonna shred us, right? So we want to make sure that we're being careful. We can boost at people if they're out of position. So like if they're isolated on their own, like this guy, right? We can boost at people if they're low health, out of position. If we just have a good opportunity to boost at them, if they have if they don't have a lot of people alive, right? And we can be a little bit more aggressive, right? We just don't want to do that, like boost straight at somebody if they're sitting in the middle of their team with, and then we're just gonna get demeched and dead. Ultimates, just make sure we're looking to do it from an angle where they're not really expecting it from, right? That way it's a surprise and we're getting it off without them noticing. Look to use it more towards like the middle of a fight, not the very beginning, not the very end, right? We want to make sure we're still using it very frequently. In general for you Mars, main points, probably would say that mechanics is going to be the number 1 thing for you to work on, as that's resulting in a lot of downtime where we're not doing much and a lot of time that we're just missing shots. And so crosshair placement, actions per minute, as well as just make sure we're upping our fire rate. Besides that, probably say positioning is going to be a number 2, very close number 2, because positioning is another big one. So just make sure we're keeping good positioning. Number 3 is probably going to be, let's see, trying to think. The last 3 honestly are pretty close. I'd probably say we'll put awareness at number 3. Ability usage at number 4, and then ultimate usage at number 5, with ultimate usage not really being too much of a problem for you. But the first 2 are really important. Bottom 3 are a little bit closer, but still need work on them. Now moving on to, I guess before I move on to Koga, do you have any questions about anything we've talked about, Mars?
Nope, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Alright, so Koga, we talked about, and then Ashe and D.Va are the only ones you talked about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, so Koga, we went over Baptiste and D.Va, and that was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, so Baptiste first then, make sure we use Immortality more often, right? Make sure we're looking to use it around corners so that they're not getting out in the open and just dying instantly. If you're just reacting always to when people are about to die, then that's going to be a really difficult way to land lamps. So basically, like if we're just going like, oh snap, this person's about to die, lamp, right? Then that makes it very difficult to land good, efficient that are behind cover. So being very aware and paying attention to when am I going to need to use lamp, where's my team positioned, right? So every time our team's positioning somewhere differently, we're kind of moving where we're placing lamp. So if our team's standing here, we're thinking in our head, okay, we can place lamp here, there, okay, they move forwards, okay, now we can place lamp there, right? They move forward, now, okay, well now there's nowhere really to put it, right? So we're always looking for the to put it, we're keeping spots in our mind, just using cover with. Now, shift usage, just make sure you're using it to keep, you're using it pretty frequently. You're not dying with it because you want to use it to keep yourself alive and heal your. Too much of an issue. Now, ultimate usage, bigger ones that you struggle with, just make sure you're looking to use it frequently. You're not holding on to it. Baptiste, look to use it at the very beginning of. As long as the fight's not been won or lost. But then on D.Va, different in making sure you're using a little bit. More towards the towards the fight, rather than at the very beginning. But again, just not after the fight's been won or lost. Now on to positioning. Positioning, same thing as Mars. Make sure you're not on the open and that you are not kill you very easily. Make sure you're not walking ahead of your team, but you're standing behind your whole team. If you're ahead of your tanks and ahead of your team, that's going to be very difficult for you to heal them or for you to, and it's also going to kill you because now you don't have shit in front of you. Besides that, not too much. I don't think positioning was as much of an issue with Mars. Now, awareness, probably the biggest thing for you is awareness. Just want to make sure that we are paying attention to what's going on around us, right? So just list off a bunch real quick. Make sure you're paying attention to team compositions. Make sure you're paying attention to what's happening. This is a big one, is pay attention to what's happening in game. Where are the characters on our team at? Where are the characters on the enemy team at? Right? Make sure that you are paying attention to your HUD, right? Abilities, ammo, ultimate, our health bar, time bank, right? Just pay attention to all that stuff. Watch kill feed, audio awareness, keep that up, right? So just getting consistent with your awareness is going to come down to really focusing in on certain if you're not going to improve by autopiloting. Now on to mechanics. I think is the last thing here. Not too much of a problem. Just make sure you're keeping cross replacement as well. It's not too much of an issue, as much of an issue on that, but you still want to be able to hit headshots because headshots do one. It's three. So three. So it's like 5 shots to kill him, right? Whereas body shots is 1, 2, 3. So it's like more like 9 shots to kill him. It's almost half the damage. So we want to make sure we're hitting headshots, right? And then you're hitting all 3 shots. Besides that, not too much of an issue with just hitting your right clicks. I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't say it, but you can very easily, if you show lamp from a little bit further away, it's very easy to do because you can. The lamp follows the same course as your right click does. So if we right click here, right, lamp's going to go to the same spot. So that's an easy way to. If it's a little bit further away, right on top of you, you can open it up by throwing a right click, see where it goes, and then you can adjust. Right. Besides that, moving on to Diva, pretty much all the same stuff as we were talking about with Mars. I don't think that it was very different between the two of you. We talked about a lot of the same points. So main points overall, Koga, we probably have awareness being number 1. And then after that, I would probably say ultimate usage as ability usage as number 3, positioning as number 4, and mechanics as number 5. Right.
Okay.
Any questions on anything we've gone over?
Nope.
All right. Well, then I'm going to end the recording.